Where in the world am I? I'm in San Diego talking about Amsterdam, and this is part 1 of 2. So welcome back to the Dr. Mary Travel Best Guide podcast. I'm so excited to connect with you, a fellow traveler or future traveler, and let's share experiences. Here's the FAQ. Why is the Netherlands known for flowers? And the answer? Well, we're going to talk about Amsterdam today. When I was there last year, I saw lots and lots of flowers, and they were blooming. And then there were some that were already bloomed. But I've experienced some of the beauty of those flowers in the Netherlands, and I wanted to know why. And there's 2 things. They have perfect conditions, and they innovate. The Netherlands is the flower shop of the world because it accounts for a massive share of the global trade, about 44% of worldwide floral exports. And this comes from a unique mix of ideal maritime climate, rich agriculture expertise, and efficient global trade logistics. The favorable climate, well, they've got this Dutch coast. It provides a moderate maritime climate with a mild winter and cool extended spring. It's perfect conditions for bulbs like tulips and hyacinths and daffodils. And then the soil. It's got ancient coastal sand dunes, and they were excavated centuries ago, which left behind well-draining sandy clay soil that bulbs absolutely thrive in. What's the confidence challenge we want to talk about today? So in Amsterdam, I was solo much of the time, and we're going to talk about the confidence challenge. My book series delves into this. How do you meet people when you're alone? The 5 steps to solo travel from easy to more challenging gives you some tips for that. And book C, which is coming soon, is going to really address that. So today's destination, we're going to talk about Amsterdam. It's in the Netherlands. And this episode is actually what I did there in July 2025 as a solo woman traveler. So my first reminder to you is this. When you get to Amsterdam, watch out for the bikes. I mean it. The bikes are everywhere. They move fast. The bike lanes are not sidewalks. They are real transportation lanes. And the people riding bikes know where they're going. So before you step off the curb, look both ways and then look again. Staying alert helps you feel safer and more confident exploring solo. I arrived in Amsterdam on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025, around 5 p.m. after more than 12 hours on trains. I was tired, but I still had 2 more train rides to go before I reached my hostel. I had considered taking the metro and had bought a 2-day transportation pass for about €15, but I ended up taking the Sprinter train because it fit my route better. It took 3 stops, then I transferred to another train for 1 stop, and then walked about 11 minutes, roughly half a mile, to my hostel via Amsterdam. It's near Diamond Zuid, so planning ahead made my journey smoother and less stressful. Look in the show notes for some more details on this. So this was a hostel/hotel combination, but it felt very much like a hostel with a shared kitchen, common areas, and people actually talking to each other. My room had 8 beds, and on that first night, 7 were occupied by men. There was 1 bathroom and a shower inside the room. It may not have been ideal, but it worked out fine. My roommates were respectful, and I spoke with travelers from Greece and Spain. And this is one of the gifts of hostel travel. You meet people you would never meet in a standard hotel lobby. Engaging with fellow travelers can make solo trips more enjoyable and less lonely. After I checked in, I did laundry, showered, and organized my things for the next day, and went to sleep. The next morning, I had the hostel buffet breakfast for €12, and I also made myself a lunch to carry with me. This is one of my travel habits. If I can save money on one meal, I can spend it on something else, a museum, a train, or maybe, in this case, a massage. I walked back to the station and took the train to Amsterdam Central. The train system immediately made me feel the city's vibrant energy. Trains left on time, and people seemed comfortable and lively using public transportation. Everything flowed smoothly. I saw cows, graffiti, tiny homes, large apartment buildings, and lots of bikes. Flowers, as I mentioned earlier, some blooming, some past their bloom, and some getting ready for reblooms, added to the lively, colorful scene. And even without visiting peak tulip season, I felt immersed in the floral beauty of the Netherlands, which made me excited to explore more. One thing I noticed about Amsterdam is the people seemed genuinely friendly and willing to help. There was no eye-rolling or big drama, just practical, kind assistance. That stood out to me as an American traveler. Sometimes, when you are tired, jet-lagged, or confused, the kindness of strangers makes you feel more at home in a new place. I had some suggestions from Margaret, who was born in Norway, and I appreciated her ideas for restaurants and places to experience. One word that came up was hygge, spelled Hygge, often associated with Danish and Scandinavian culture, and it means cozy, comfortable, warm, and enjoying good company. Amsterdam, in its own way, gave me some of that feeling, especially in the cafes, in the common rooms, and neighborhood restaurants, where I felt a sense of warmth and belonging. I visited the Rijksmuseum, which I would describe for Americans as something like the Smithsonian, but focused deeply on Dutch art, history, and culture. I spent about 2 hours there before it closed. I saw famous Rembrandts and other works I did not know much about before going in. I also found a quieter Asian art exhibit in the basement with Buddhas, ceramics, jewelry, coins, and sculpture. One of my favorite parts of the museum was the library. It had old books, a spiral staircase, and people studying on the first floor. It may have been the most beautiful library I've ever seen. Everyone entering seemed to know instinctively to be quiet. It felt sacred in a scholarly way. I also peeked around the museum area, saw the outside of the Moco Museum, and looked toward the Van Gogh Museum. On one of those days, I wore my Van Gogh sunflower socks, which made me smile. Sometimes travel joy is a big museum, and sometimes it's just putting on cheerful socks and walking into the day. Amsterdam also has its food treats. I tried and noticed Dutch favorites like appelstroop, which is apple syrup, and stroopwafels, those thin syrup waffles that are like cookies. The best way to enjoy them is to place one over a hot cup of coffee or tea so the syrup warms. I also heard about Van Stapely, the famous cookie store, but the warning is that they run out early. Another place that stood out was Carousel Pancakes, and I also heard about Moders, which means mothers in Dutch. That name alone made me curious. Amsterdam has plenty of classic restaurants, cozy places, and food experiences that make the city feel welcoming. One evening, I met my former student and friend Melvin for dinner at a fish restaurant. It was in a neighborhood that felt a little run down, but the restaurant had a fun, unusual style, almost fancy and trashy at the same time. You picked out your own fish, then they battered and cooked it for you. We had Dutch fried fish called kibbeling, plus octopus, mussels, shrimp, and other seafood. The meal was surprisingly good, and the value was excellent. I took 2 metros to get there, and Melvin gave me a ride back to the hostel afterwards. Later that night, I stayed up planning future travel to Edinburgh, a nearby beach area, and then Canada. That is real solo travel. You're enjoying one destination while also planning the next. Now, a word about atmosphere. I did smell marijuana smoke in Amsterdam from the time I arrived. It was noticeable in several places, including near restaurants and on the street. That may bother some travelers, so it is worth knowing in advance. Still, I found Amsterdam friendly, efficient, beautiful, and full of movement. The trains worked. The people helped. The museums inspired me. The food surprised me, and the bikes kept me alert. So listen for part 2 next week. And now I'm going to talk about some of my travel mistakes. So I did not get hit by a bike. So what you need to do is make sure that you don't also. My tip is to use the trains and metro, but know your route before you leave the station. Amsterdam transportation is excellent, but when you're tired, transfers can be confusing. So many times I went the wrong direction or was on the wrong train, and so I had to go back at least once. I think I probably made about 5 wrong turns, but it was easy to just go back the other way. So Amsterdam is not just a postcard city of canals. It's a living, moving city. It's practical, artistic, direct, and memorable.
What's on your travel bucket list? Tell the doctor and her team of women who travel the world seeking the very best. Dr. Travel Best, that is.